Hi there, TEDsters in TEDxWarwick, England. I'm Philip Zimbardo, coming to you from San Francisco. I wish I could be there with you in person. I will be in Edinburgh April 2nd giving a talk to 1,000 high school students, and before that a few days in London. So if you're around those parts, come and visit me. What I want to talk about today is what it felt like being a virgin at TED 2008, last year in Monterey, California. I had never heard of TED. I thought it was Ted from United Airlines, or Ted Williams was my favorite baseball player on the Red Sox when I was a kid. But I didn't know about TED or TED.com until I got a call from June Cohn, who was a former student of mine at Stanford, who happens to be the executive director of TED, and invited me to give a talk. And then they said, of course, it's limited to 18 minutes. Well, if you're an academic, my world is 50 minutes, and I usually more often than not, I teach twice a week for 2 hours rather than 3 times for 50 minutes. So 18 minutes is really the introduction. But I cut down my 2-hour talk to close to 18 minutes. And of course, it's very professional, so you have to rehearse. During the rehearsal, unfortunately, the clock was not working. It was a glitch. So I couldn't time it. But they told me too many slides, cut out the words, which I did that night. But as you'll see, it was really good that the senior staff saw the rehearsal. That day, the day before I talked, it was the most intimidating day in my life. I've been teaching for 50 years. I teach classes up to 1,000. I give talks all around the world. I go to many international conferences, but there's never anything like TED. Every lecture was brilliant, or even more brilliant. The slideshows were extraordinary. The video clips were, totally professional. And they all got it in 18 minutes. So I went home that night and rehearsed and practiced, and then it's my time. They hook you up, they give you a little remote, call your name, and you're out in the red circle. Well, I said, I'm so happy to be here, and I look up, and there's a huge digital clock that says starts with 18:00, and then it's now at 17:58. It's, oh my God, I wasted 2 seconds. So I have this running dialogue. I'm talking a mile a minute because I knew I had 60 slides and I only had 18 minutes. And I'm talking a mile a minute, and I begin to hyperventilate, and I'm saying to myself, slow down, you're going to faint. I say, I can't slow down. It'll take 3 seconds to take a breath. So I'm talking fast and fast. My voice is going up. I can hear it going up. But I'm shooting along, and I look up. I got 10 minutes. I got 30 slides, and it's moving really well. And what I'm talking about is the psychology of evil. I'm talking about what are the processes by which ordinary people, even good people, can be seduced, cross the line between good and evil into doing things that harm other people, hurt other people, even kill other people, or at national level commit crimes against humanity. So this is what I've been studying for a long time with my Stanford prison study and other research I've been doing. So my lecture was filled with lots of interesting slides. The Milgram experiment, Stanley Milgram and I were high school classmates in the Bronx, and his study was the first to really powerfully demonstrate how individual authority can compel individuals to believe they're harming another innocent person. In fact, 2/3 of 1,000 American citizens went all the way to 450 volts when they're put in a position of being a teacher, shocking alleged learner for making mistakes. Well, his study was really a one-on-one power of an authority over an individual. And I realized most of our life is spent in institutions, family, schools, work, military, hospitals. So that I wanted to see what is the power of institutions in corrupting good people, where it's not a single person that says, do this bad thing. It's a set of norms, a set of rules, a set of operating procedures. And so that's when I created the Stanford Prison Study at Stanford back in 1971. And the study very simply was, we put an ad in a local newspaper, the city newspaper, wanted college students to study a prison life for 2 weeks, $15 a day. We got 75 students applying. They were from all over the country because they happened to be in the San Francisco area in summer school at University of California, or Stanford. But we gave them personality tests and clinical interviews, and we picked 24 who were the most normal and healthy, and then we randomly divided them, as in all good experiments, prisoner versus guard. So at the beginning of the study, it was only by chance you were assigned to be a prisoner or guard. And in fact, you were a normal, healthy, intelligent college student. Moreover, it's 1971, so a lot of these kids are hippies. A lot of these kids are anti-war activists, pro-civil rights. Certainly not the kinds of kids, and old kinds of kids who said, don't trust authority, don't believe anybody over 30. And the most amazing thing was, within 2 days of getting into their role, which the guards worked 8-hour shifts, prisoners lived in the prison 24 hours a day, as in real prisons. The guards got so much into their role, they began to abuse the prisoners. I was the prison superintendent. I had to constantly intervene to say, no physical force. If you touch them with your club, it's like hitting them. But what the guards did is use psychological force to undermine the reasoning, undermine the sense of independence, really producing a state of learned helplessness in the prisoners. Within 36 hours, the first kid we chose, because he was normal and healthy, had an emotional breakdown. And that became a model of how you get out. Because it no longer was an experiment that you just say, I quit the experiment. Obviously, I have the freedom to come and go. It became a prison run by psychologists, not by the state. And each day thereafter, another prisoner broke down in a similar fashion. So that at the end of the 6th day, I had to end the experiment prematurely because the guards were simply out of control. And I had to go to sleep at some time. The study was just me and a couple of graduate students running the whole thing 24/7. So I ended the study after the 6th day, and you'll see later when I show you a little video clip that I presented at TED, what was the dynamic force that made me stop the study. In addition, because of the Stanford prison study, a lawyer for one of the guards at Abu Ghraib, one of the Army Reserve military policemen who abused the prisoners in Iraq's prison, asked me to be part of his defense team. And I agreed because I then had access to all of the images, I had access to all the 12 investigative reports, and I had access to this man to find out what really happened there. How did he get corrupted? And so also what I did is I showed a set of video clips, a set of clips of the Abu Ghraib abuses, which were much worse than anything that's been seen publicly. That's why the Pentagon is suppressing them, because they're really outrageous. It's not only outrageous what the soldiers did, men and women. It was outrageous because it went on for 3 months, and that no senior officer ever intervened, because no senior officer ever went down to the night shift where these abuses were occurring. And they should have had command responsibility for that action. Any event, I'm going through breathless, and I get to the point where I say, and now we're going to switch from evil to heroism, because to be consistent, I'm saying evil is a horrendous act generated by ordinary people in special circumstances, and really heroism is an exceptional act also generated usually by ordinary people. Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, those people, we know their names because they're exceptional in sacrificing their whole life to a cause. We look at them, we say, we're glad they exist, but I'm not going to do that. But in fact, most heroes are ordinary people. Most heroes are everyday people who engage in a heroic deed only once in their life. You know why? Because you have to oppose evil. You have to defy unjust authority. You have to oppose corruption. You have to oppose immorality. There has to be a disaster. So for most of us, we don't have an opportunity to be a hero because we're not in that crucible of human nature. In any event, when I say now we're going to switch from evil to heroism, you can feel the whole audience lifted up and say, oh God, please. Just then, ding, 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 0, 0, 0, time ran out. And it was like a vacuum in the audience because I said, now we're going to switch to the good thing after the bad thing. And just then, Deus Ex Machina descends from the sky in the form of Chris Anderson. He's the CEO who had heard the rehearsal. And he got up on the stage, he said something like, this is too important to stop now. We're going to give you a few more minutes, which they never do. The only people who ever got more than 18 minutes were Bill Clinton and Al Gore. So I didn't know that till later, so I felt privileged. So I raced through the next 5 minutes, which you'll see now. And I ended, and I heaved a sigh, and I got a standing ovation, which is relatively rare at TED, and certainly not anything I expected. And I did not faint, fortunately. So I want you to look at the video. It's only a few minutes. And then afterwards, what I really want to talk to you about today is the amazing things that have happened since then to now in creating a heroic imagination project that I really want to engage. Philosophers, dramatists, theologians have grappled with this question for centuries. What makes people go wrong? So situations have the power to do the same, but the point is, it's the same situation that can inflame the hostile imagination in some of us that makes us perpetrators of evil, can inspire the heroic imagination in others. It's the same situation, and you're on one side or the other. Most people are guilty of the evil of inaction because your mother says, don't get involved, mind your own business. And you have to say, Mama, humanity is my business. So the psychology of heroism is, we're going to end in a moment, how do we encourage children to develop this heroic imagination, this self-labeling, I am a hero in waiting, and teach them skills. To be a hero, you have to learn to be a deviant, because you're always going against the conformity of the group. Heroes are ordinary people whose social action is extraordinary, who act. The key to heroes is two things. You have to act when other people are passive. B, you have to act sociocentrically, not egocentrically. And so one day, you will be in a new situation. Take path one, you're going to be a perpetrator of evil. Evil meaning you're going to be Arthur Anderson. You're going to cheat, or you're going to allow bullying. Path two, you become guilty of the evil of passive inaction. Path three, you become a hero. The point is, are we ready to take the path to celebrating ordinary heroes, waiting for the right situation to come along to put heroic imagination into action? Because it may only happen once in your life. And when you pass it by, you'll always know, I could have been a hero, and I let it pass me by. So the point is thinking it and then doing it. So I want to thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's oppose the power of evil systems at home and abroad, and let's focus on the positive. Advocate for respect of personal dignity, for justice and peace, which sadly our administration has not been doing. Thanks so much. When I give a usual lecture at a conference or anywhere, a colloquium, people usually say interesting, nice, and that's it. Sometimes they don't say anything. It's like, did they hear this? At TED, it was a totally different experience. Maybe 100 people came up to see me in the next 2 days saying it was inspirational, it was wonderful, it was exciting. These are not, most of them are not psychologists, very few of them are. They had never actually heard this kind of orientation, of presentation. But what they focused on was the hero part, the little part at the end, the little coda. And then in true TED fashion, they're saying, well, you got to brand it. You got to scale it up. I didn't even know what that meant. You got to scale it up. You have to brand it. You have to move it to the next level. And then, for example, Jeff Bezos, the head of Amazon, comes up and says, I have 3 children. I want them to be heroes. Give me some advice. Well, I said, we don't have the advice to give because we have to study it. We have to do the research, and that's what we started doing. So that just mobilized me to put aside lots of other things I was doing and focus on what we're calling the Heroic Imagination Project. Heroic imagination is really the engine of heroism. It's fueled by the civic virtues of compassion, altruism, empathy, responsibility, and mostly integrity. But it is what drives heroic action. So heroic imagination is kind of a cognitive motivational force that is fed by these civic virtues, which in and of themselves don't produce anything, but it's heroic imagination which is the mediator, or the turbine, which then generates heroic action. What I mean by heroic action is action taken on behalf of other people or a cause, without expectation of reward, and certainly with awareness of possible personal cost. It's different certainly from altruistic behavior because of the awareness of the personal cost. So our goal is, how do we expand and explore the nature of our own inner heroes? How do we unleash the power and give voice to the many quiet heroes that exist in every country around the world? So this is what we've started to do, creating a Heroic Imagination Project and focusing around a number of issues. So essentially what we want to do is empirical research on heroism. It's amazing, there is very little psychological study of heroism. Mostly it's about archival studies, interview studies of Christians who helped Jews in the Holocaust. But there's no hard empirical research. We want to develop curricula and workshops and summer camps for heroism of specific age groups, but also whole towns and cities to become hero sites. We want to integrate and organize all existing information on heroism. There's lots of different websites with different names and different focuses. We want to create a cultural outreach, hero change organization that encourages different kinds of heroes. So there's eco-heroes, promoting recycling, promoting energy conservation, water conservation, health heroes, getting kids to get parents and friends and family to stop smoking, because smoking kills. So that's a heroic act if you get anybody to stop smoking, reduce smoking, to exercise, to stop taking drugs, to stop hard drugs, and to drink less alcohol. We want social support heroes, people who are going to help the elderly. In societies that are graying, we have lots of elderly, and often there's no children nearby, especially in American mobile society. So we need people who are willing to give their time to the elderly. We want anti-bullying heroes. We want family heroes, people who are going to do things that make other people in their family feel special. We want to establish and promote the heroic imagination ideals internationally, not just in America. And one of the newest things is I've hooked up with Michael Blastone of the Einstein Foundation in San Francisco. We want to promote corporate heroes, that is, people as part of what we call the Integrity Capitalism Network. People who openly defy corruption, greed, dishonesty, and fraud in business to act heroically. And so here's a whole new approach. So we're moving away just from the notion of the solitary hero, the military hero on a bronze horse in a park, to create hero networks, because heroes are most effective in a network, in a group, and moving to the next level of heroes in corporations and businesses. So the empirical research we want to do, new laboratory and field research, web-based survey research, interview research, archival research, and if we're trying to develop hero courses and workshops, but they have to be evaluated. What works, what doesn't work. So those are the kinds of things that we're trying to do. And also we want to think of new ways to use the web, to create web-based media centers where we have video and film clips, as well as all of the literature, English literature, historical literature on heroism. So in conclusion, I'm reaching out to TEDx to 7th grade to help us create an international organization to promote heroism as the antidote to evil, and really as a celebration of what's best in human nature. The organization is going to be dedicated to developing and spreading the concept of heroes as ordinary people, whose act is extraordinary, who act on behalf of other people in moral cause. Again, knowing that there's a cost and not expecting any reward. I think one of the most important things I've been trying to do is demystify and democratize the concept of heroism. To take it away from the movie heroes, the fantastic heroes of our kids, or the mythical heroes of Joseph Campbell. Because we want each person to instill in themselves the concept, I'm a hero in waiting, and when the time comes, I will act. Now, we have to give them a hero resource kit, but you have to be prepared to act. You can't just run willy-nilly into the crucible. So essentially we're developing what kinds of skills you need, what kind of situational savvy, what kinds of social influence skills you need to form a network of like-minded people. So the point is, we want people to say, when I become aware of the need to act on behalf of others, or people who are suffering from as victims of evil forces, I will be ready and able to take the necessary action. So, TEDx is out there in Warwick, or I guess Americans would say Warwick. I hope you'll join in on this task. We think it's one of the most important tasks facing the world today, to create a world filled with heroes that are ready to stand up and oppose corruption and evil that exists in every country. Thanks so much. Maybe we'll talk later on a live Q&A. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Philip Zimbardo in San Francisco. Website, www.lucifereffect.com. There's a whole section on celebrating heroism, some articles I've written. But it also has a way for you to volunteer. There's a section where you can volunteer to just put your name and background and how you think you might help, what kind of talent you have, and we will get back to you once we begin to organize different projects. And a postscript on the postscript is that Lucifer is in fact alive and well throughout the world. For example, in California, recently there was a bill to allow marriage between gay people, gays and lesbians, and it was opposed systematically with big money interests, religious interests, fundamentalist interests, that wanted to deprive people of their civil rights. And in my sense, this is, and they thought of themselves as heroic. So one of the big issues with heroism is the definition. It's the socially constructed definition. And I know in England we have this big problem with terrorism. And again, it's fundamentalists everywhere putting out a call for heroism, for young men and women to become martyrs for Allah, suicidal terrorists who become heroes in their community by killing innocent people. Well, that's Lucifer's work. That's not the work of heroism. And so we really have to oppose that. The same way we're opposing bullying in classrooms, where kids just ruin not only the life of the kid they bully, but they ruin the quality of life in the whole classroom. And corruption. Every nation suffers from some degree of corruption. We have to not allow, at the smallest level, of the policeman on the corner taking fruit from a fruit stand, because all corruption diminishes the quality of life of the people who are being corrupted, because it always ends up with, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you know the man at the top, you get ahead, regardless of how hard you work. And so we want to change all that. It's really a big vision, but we're going to start small and work up. And hopefully you'll help us. Yes, it's Philip Zimbardo in San Francisco.
Welcome to Warwick. It's a pleasure.
Hello.
We very much enjoyed your pre-recorded lecture for us. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, I'm happy it worked.
The audience here have a couple of questions they'd like to ask you, if that's all right.
Oh, I'd be delighted. As I said, I'm sorry I can't be with you.
Okay, first question. What percentage of heroes do you think we need in society?
What percentage?
Yeah. What's kind of a basic level?
Well, at the moment, I think there are relatively few heroes. It's hard to put a percentage on it, but the goal would be to have increased that percentage.
Okay, thanks very much. Another question. Can we have too many heroes?
No, we have too many of the wrong kind of heroes. Children have the fabulous heroes, Superman and Spider-Man, but they are fantastic heroes who have abilities that these children can never have. And then there's a hero program in America where you have adults who have these fantastic abilities. They can fly, they can be invisible. The problem is that it's ordinary people, everyday people, we want to begin to think of themselves as willing to engage in heroic action. So we don't have too many heroes. Also, we have a lot of false heroes. Celebrities, we make into heroes. Fashion models, athletes, they're not heroes. They make us feel good, but they don't make a sacrifice for us. So Michael Phelps, the Olympic gold medal winner, 8 times over, was a big hero in America in one sense. But he was really a role model for talent, for practice, for hard work. But he's not really a hero by the definition I use.
Okay, thanks very much. There was a question about who or how we define what is evil in order to create a notion of heroism again.
How we define what?
What is evil?
Evil?
Yes.
Yeah, well, what I tried to, well, again, these are very amorphous concepts that people have been dealing with for generations.
a psychological definition of evil, which is different from a religious one, is that evil is a behavior done intentionally to harm other people. The harm can be psychological, dehumanization, ridicule, bullying, to hurt other people through torture, through abuse, to kill other people mortally. And then when evil is done by a system, by a nation, by a group, then it's also to commit crimes against humanity. So it's a behavior, it's intentional, and it operates at all of these levels: to harm, to hurt, to kill.
Okay, thanks very much. We have one last question for you, which is,
Sure.
how can a hero deal with a situation which is morally ambiguous?
Say that again. How can heroes?
How do heroes deal with situations which aren't kind of clearly cut right or wrong, which are morally ambiguous?
Okay. I thought you said, how do heroes deal with an ambiguous situation?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's one of the big problems psychologically, is that in many cases, it's not clear-cut, or most people don't want to get involved. Every one of our mothers tells us, mind your own business, do not get involved. And if we do that, we'll live a long time, but the world begins to be ugly. So in many situations, we are looking for reasons not to be involved. So often we say, oh, it doesn't look so bad. That person is probably just drunk, so he brought it on himself. So one of the first issues is, how do you train people to be more sensitive to situational ambiguities? How do we identify when a situation is truly an emergency and we should take action? Usually what you want to do is call, you don't want to be a personal hero. Usually, if possible, you want to call the officials who are trained to do this. But in their absence, then we as citizens have to take action on behalf of other people.
Professor Zimbardo, thank you very much.
Well, again, as I said, I would invite you all to visit our website, lucifereffect.com. It has a whole section on celebrating heroism. And the other one is everydayheroism.org. So thank you. It's been wonderful being part of TED again.
Thank you.